Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome in to Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for being here Wednesday, November 26th. Welcome into the show. So right now we're doing our kind of weekly look at the Jaguars and their playoff picture, all that good stuff. It's been fun. It's been a wild ride this year, a little bit of a roller coaster ride. When you look at what the Jaguars have done so far this year, there was like basically just one stretch where it felt like things were a little off, and games are close in the NFL. So you can't apologize for a win, as Liam Cohen told the guys in the locker room. So we're going to dive into it. Standings, schedule ahead, kind of where the Jaguars are at as a team right now, and have a good time. Again, really appreciate y'all being here. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out GenJag.com, pick up some new Duval gear. We will be having some sales this weekend. Haven't locked that up yet, but be on the lookout for that as well. Scheduling-wise, with Thanksgiving, probably will get out 2 shows today. We will have Club Jaguar this evening over on UCF Jaguars channel, and then probably have a show tomorrow and try to be, regular schedule on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all that stuff. So that's what we're going to try to do here. Titans hate week, obviously. You look at the Jaguars, they're currently 7-4. They've won 3 out of their last 4 games. Really, when you look at how this season has gone, they won 4 out of their first 5. Then they had a couple really tough games against the Seahawks and Rams. I think if the Jaguars played the Seahawks again, they could potentially win that game. I think if they played the Rams right now, they would lose, right? Bengals, they would win that game. So Texans, again, that would be a coin flip one. They're a tough football team. Obviously, the way that game went, the Jaguars should have won that game, but they fell apart at the end. Then you absolutely smack the Chargers. You survive the Cardinals despite all the turnovers by Trevor Lawrence. And, he made some great plays himself. That was the ultimate Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, roller coaster game, whatever you want to call it. But the bottom line is the Jags are 7-4. They have won 3 of their last 4 games. They have scored an average of 30 points per game over their last 4 games. And they're in a great position. When you look at the schedule ahead for the Jaguars, at Tennessee Titans this Sunday, 1 p.m. kick, that's obviously a division rivalry. You still have 2 games against the Titans. Your final game of the season is against the Titans in Jacksonville. That's always kind of fun, to host the Titans at the end of the year. 2 division games to end the season at Colts and then hosting the Titans. So, at Tennessee, you have to win this game. You got to win this game. The Titans, despite being more competitive of late and Cam Ward making some more plays and showing that he probably is a guy there that you can get excited about, it's a must win. The Jaguars are a better football team than the Titans. And where the Jaguars are at right now, it does still feel like any given Sunday, they could probably beat just about any team in the NFL, maybe outside of the Rams. Eagles. It also feels like they could lose to just about any team in the NFL. So by no means is this like a walk into Tennessee and you're just going to sleepwalk your way to a victory. Even though the Titans, they're 1-10, and the Jaguars are favored by almost 7 points on the road, you have to bring your A game. You've got to. It's not going to be as easy as everyone potentially thinks it is, especially the Jaguars if they beat themselves. That's been something they've done a lot this year. They've done it in different ways. Against the Cardinals, it was all the turnovers. Against a lot of teams, it's been not controlling the controllables in terms of the penalties and drops, things of that nature. You got to beat Tennessee, and I think they will. I do. So let's just say, you're favored, you win that game, you get to 8-4. You're in a great spot. Currently, the Jaguars are in the 6th seed in the AFC, and they're in second in the AFC South. They've got the Indianapolis Colts following the Titans in Jacksonville. The Colts never win in Jacksonville. Is this going to be the year that changes? Really interesting matchup schematically. Obviously, both teams have big injuries. DeForest Buckner won't be up for this game against the Jaguars, which is big. They also lost Ashton Doolin, who I tweeted out yesterday, non-sarcastically, non-ironically, was a big loss. And he is a big loss for the Colts special teams. He's a core 4 special teamer for the Colts. And so that does matter. Obviously, I guess most folks were kind of clowning that because he only has 5 catches this year. He's a big special teams factor. Absolutely. But I digress. Colts in Jacksonville. I think the Jaguars will probably split with the Colts. That's my take. Whether it's they win in Jacksonville against the Colts, whether it's they win in Indy, I don't know. I think they'll split, though. I think the matchup, you think about how the Colts have won so many games running the football with Jonathan Taylor, and when teams can kind of slow down Jonathan Taylor, the Colts struggle a little. And so it's not easy to slow him down, but the Jaguars have one of the best run defenses in football. Maybe the best against opposing runners. Honestly. I mean, you just look at the numbers. Also, like the eye test, they have just been really good against the run all year. You can see it. They have the players. They have just when you think about who they have, Devon Hamilton is a great interior run defender. Eric Armstead is pretty good in that regard. On the edge, Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker. At linebacker, they have 2 really good run defenders in Foye Oluokun, Devin Lloyd, and they just have guys in the secondary that are willing to be physical. So the Jaguars stop the run really well. And the numbers back that up. Absolutely. They're allowing the fewest yards per game on the ground in the NFL. 83 yards per game on the ground. And a good chunk of those yards that you see in that number have been quarterback scrambles. So they're doing a great job against the run. Awesome to see. All that to say, I think the Jaguars might match up with the Colts pretty well. I think the Jaguars split with the Colts. I'll predict that they win at home, which would give the Jaguars a 4-game win streak and winning 5 out of 6. Pretty crazy. But that's kind of what we expected, or at least I expected at the beginning of the year. When you saw the schedule, it was like, okay, you have a favorable schedule towards the end here. Cardinals, Titans, Colts, Jets, Broncos is tough. But I'll have the Jaguars beating the Jets as well. And of course, all this is subject to change, which is why we do it every single week. Have a good time talking about your Jags. Titans win 8-4. Colts in Jacksonville win 9-4. Jets in Jacksonville win 10-4. At Broncos, I'll give them the L. At Colts, I'll give them the L. 10-6, hosting the Titans. Week 18, you get the dub. 11-6 is where I have the Jaguars. Now, again, all this can change. The Jags have been a little bit sketchy, right? Again, with Trevor Lawrence turnovers, he's turned the ball over way too much this year. 16 turnovers. Penalties can creep back in. Against the Cardinals, they only had 60 penalty yards, and 15 of those came on, the Devin Lloyd sack, which I don't blame him at all for that. I just don't know how you're supposed to execute in that moment other than what he did. Yeah. It was not a bad penalty game. And against the Chargers, not a bad penalty game. But before that, they had been having a lot of trouble with penalties. So do you keep on this kind of track of not being super heavily penalized, or do you revert back? Drops have been a major issue. The Jaguars lead the NFL in drops. You look at all the different quarterbacks out there, and this is by no means excusing Trevor Lawrence's issue with turnovers, but simply look at all the quarterbacks out there and drops. Trevor Lawrence has had a pass dropped 29 times in 11 games. That leads the league. So that's been an issue. The Jaguars have some coverage issues on the back end against certain looks, against certain teams. So yeah, it's not like all sunshine and rainbows here, but it feels like things are trending in the right direction and the schedule is favorable. I have the Jaguars finishing 11-6. That would basically be the same win percentage that they have right now, right around 64%. They've won 7 of 11 games so far, which is 63.6%. And then 11 of 18 would be, 11 of 17 would be 64.7%. So right in that same range. And a more favorable schedule ahead than what they have had to deal with so far, in my opinion. So yeah, Jaguars, I have them at 11-6. Does that make them a playoff team? Well, for one, does that win their division? The Colts are currently 8-3. I have the Colts losing once to the Jaguars, beating the Jaguars once. So that puts them at 9 well, let's just roll through their schedule real quick. They have the Texans this weekend. I'm going to have them splitting with the Texans. This one is in Indy, so I'll give Indy the win there to get to 9-3. Losing to the Jaguars to fall to 9-4, which would put the Jaguars in first place in the AFC South at the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to have the Seahawks winning that game in Seattle. That's a tough assignment for the Colts. So 9-5 versus the 49ers. Tough game. That's in Indy. I'll give them the win to get to 10-5. Versus Jacksonville, I give them the win to get to 11-5. At Houston, I'm going to go with the Texans on that one. Trying to spoil the division for the Colts. I'm going to go with the Texans. 11-6 and a split between the Jaguars. So you're tied at the top of the division there at the end of the season. And the tiebreaker would be, obviously, to start it would be head-to-head, which would be split. And then you'd go to the divisional record. And the Colts are currently 2-0. The Jaguars are 1-1. Colts have played the Titans twice. So I have the Jaguars beating the Titans twice, which would get them to 3-1. I have them splitting with the Colts, which would be 3-2. I have them okay, 3-1 after the Titans. Then you have 2 games against the Colts. That would be 4-2. I have the Jaguars at 4-2 in the division. The Colts, I have them losing to the Jaguars once, beating the Jaguars once, which would be 3-2. 3-1. And then I have them splitting with I have them at 4-2 as well. So division record does not matter. That is also tied. So then you go to the conference record. Colts are 6-2 in the conference right now. Jaguars are 4-2. This isn't the best podcasting right now, I know, but we got to do some research here. NFL playoff, because I honestly don't remember what happens after that. Okay. So it goes head to head and then division and then best win-loss tie record in common games and then conference. So conference would be the fourth tiebreaker. Best record against common opponents, which obviously in the division they would be sitting at the same based on what I've got. And then, you know, the Colts might win that. They've beaten the Raiders, they've beaten the Cardinals, they've beaten the Chargers. They did lose to the Chiefs, which helps the Jaguars. They beat the Broncos. The Jags might need to beat the Broncos. Obviously, the Colts faced the Seahawks. The Jaguars lost to the Seahawks. The Jaguars beat the 49ers. So it could be really close here. They might end up with the same win-loss tie against common opponents. And then you would go to the conference schedule, which the Colts have a leg up right now because they're 6-2, but they've played more games. It's going to be really tight. If that ended up being tied, it would be strength of victory in all games. Does strength of victory mean the score? Sorry, we're going down the rabbit hole, right? Strength of victory is the combined win-loss record of all the teams a team has defeated. Okay. I would think that would be there's no way that ends up being exactly the same, right? Then it goes to strength of schedule. So, yeah, it could be dicey at the end whether the Jaguars win the division at 11-6 or not. And again, a lot can change here. So, we don't need to worry too much about that yet. There's a lot of football left to be played. But just going down the rabbit hole, if both teams finish 11-6, that'll be fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Now, looking at the playoff picture as a whole right now, kind of where things are at, I think that the Jags and Colts are going to be right there. You know, we've talked about it. It's going to be close between the Jags and Colts. You have the Jags currently in 6th. They're tied with the Bills and the Chargers at 7-4. The Bills have a soft strength of schedule moving forward. The Chargers clearly have some issues moving forward, offensive line and more. I would expect the Jaguars to jump the Chargers. Will the Bills stick with that? Let's see here. The Bills play at Steelers versus Bengals, at Patriots, at Browns. So they actually do have some tough games. At Steelers, I would pick the Bills, but it could be tough. Bengals could be tough. Joe Burrow. Patriots, that's tough. Browns, I mean, they should win that game. Eagles, that's tough. Jets, they should win that game. So there's some questionable ones on there for the Bills. But I do think that the Jags and the Bills will probably jump the Chargers. I think they'll finish with better. I think those two teams will finish with better records than the Chargers. So those are the current wild card teams. Texans are 6-5. They've been playing good football as of late. They've won 3 straight games. Steelers, congratulations to the Texans on that. Jags absolutely gifted them that. Gifted their season back to them. Steelers 6-5. They're in the 9th spot. So they have that game versus Buffalo is huge for both of those teams. Chiefs are currently 6-5 in the 10 spot. So I don't expect any of those teams to catch the Jaguars, just with the Jaguars' favorable schedule. At 6-5, you would have to go 5-1 to catch up with the record I'm predicting for the Jaguars. So I don't see that happening right now. And it's going to be tough for any of those teams to make the playoffs. I guess my guess would probably be that the Chargers fall out. They showed some real weakness. So my guess would be the Chargers fall out. One of those teams, the Texans, Steelers, Chiefs, get in. If I had to predict, I would go with the Chiefs. But yeah, I have the Jaguars finishing with, if they don't win the division, I have them as the 5 or the 6 seed, depending on how things go with the Bills. If they do win the division, I would have them as the 3rd seed probably. I don't think the Patriots are going to fall off. They're 10-2 right now. The Broncos are just, they're 9-2. I could see them falling off a bit, but they just have a nice lead on the Jaguars right now, 2 games ahead of the Jaguars. That game against Denver in Denver could be a big playoff implications game, seeding implications game for sure. The Ravens are 6-5. They've won 5 straight. They could catch the Jaguars and make the Jaguars be the 4 seed. Whoever wins the AFC South be the 4 seed. But I would probably say whoever wins the AFC South will probably be the 3 seed, which is the way it is right now. If the Jaguars don't win the AFC South, probably the 5 or 6 seed. So that's where we're at. I don't think we need to go down the road of talking about like what's going to happen in the playoffs. I mean, we have no idea the matchups, all that stuff yet. But I guess we could. So if the Jaguars finish with the 3 seed, let's see here. Currently, they are the 6 seed, as we mentioned. They would be playing at Indy right now if the playoffs started today, which is pretty funny. But the playoffs don't start today. So if the Jaguars ended up the 3 seed, they would play the 6 seed, which my guess would be the Bills. That would be my guess, is the Bills would finish 6 because the Colts would probably be in front of them for the 5th seed. So if the Jaguars win their division, host a playoff game, end up the 3rd seed, they would host the Bills. And we've seen that story before. Josh Allen wasn't on the other team. It was Tyrod Taylor. But we've seen the Bills come to Jacksonville before for a playoff game. That would be one hell of an environment. And, that could be one and done. The Bills are, Josh Allen's incredible. But we've also seen, and, last year, the Bills boat raced the Jaguars. It was ugly, ugly, ugly. But we've seen Josh Allen and the Jaguars have some success against the Bills as well. That would be crazy matchup. If the Jaguars end up with the 5th seed, which is what I would probably project them to finish with if they don't win their division. Again, it could be Buffalo, it could be Jacksonville. But if they ended up the 5th seed, they would be currently scheduled to play the Ravens in Baltimore. That's where we're at. Really appreciate y'all being here. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Very thankful for y'all. Have a good one.